Dear Binx, I told Aslan that I fled from Maul, having only spoken to him for a few moments. I lied. It ended as I said. I made it back to the Archangel before the rest of the crew, with them none the wiser as to where I had been, and it began as I described too, right up until my anger made the wild magic swell within me like a wave. As I told Aslan, I could feel that feeble connection to his magic returning, not as much as I could normally wield, but enough, and I knew that I could have retreated if I had chosen to. But I did not choose to. Truthfully, if I had cast anything at that moment, it would have been to fight, not to flee. I was so tired of being attacked. Maul blinked, the rage leaving his face, and let go of my bodice. He stepped back, his hands held up in a gesture of pacification.
Excuse me. That was uncalled for.
Oh, do you think so? He sniffed the air.
It's going to start raining any moment, and the rainstorms on Dathomir are particularly unpleasant.
Most things here seem to be. He wasn't wrong, though. It was more humid than it had been even a minute ago.
I have a shelter nearby, and an excellent cashews tea. Please join me, and allow me to make up for my misperception when the rainstorm passes. I believe I have some healing supplies among my things.
He gestured at the slash he had made on my arm, to say nothing of the acid burns from the spiders and the more prosaic burns from that stupid autognome. I regarded him for a moment. I knew I should refuse. He had given me no reason to trust him, and multiple reasons not to. I may have lied to Aslan about running away, but I had not lied about Maul being unhinged. And yet, with his obvious martial prowess and that obsessive hatred for the being who must have been his former master, he reminded me of a more volatile version of Nebula. I'm asking this without judgment. You used to be one of those cringing dogs, didn't you? His fists clenched, and I thought for a moment that I really would have to run. Then he relaxed, barking a laugh.
I was his right hand. I was to be one of the most powerful people in this world. And then... But I really would like to avoid the rain. This way.
He turned and entered the forest, not looking to see whether I was following. It would have been a terrible idea to go with him. I went with him. I understand, I said. As you can probably guess, I'm in no position to judge. I've done more than my share of cringing since... well, you know. I'm D, by the way. He didn't respond. At that moment, I didn't know if he'd even heard, as he was going through the forest with singular focus. It only took a few moments to reach the shelter, but the temperature had dropped dramatically in that time. The dank, heavy breeze was chill enough for goose flesh to break out on my skin, and I could hear the distant rumble of thunder. I doubted I would have been able to make it back to the Archangel before the storm broke. I didn't know what I expected of his shelter, but it turned out to be a cave with a hanging tarpaulin for a door. Inside were a few shelves with books and various other items, a low tea table, and a few other necessities. No bedroll, I noticed, and not much by way of provisions beyond tea things. But, of course, with his cold breath and his resistance to necrotic energy, food and sleep would not be among those necessities. We had barely made it inside when the rain began to fall so forcefully that it sounded as though the cave were situated beneath a waterfall. I watched with eldritch sight as Maul heated the water and gathered the tea things, making sure he didn't add anything untoward to the cups. He may have reminded me of Nebula, but that didn't mean that I trusted him. I believe he used prestidigitation to heat the water to the perfect temperature, and I made a mental note to remember that trick. He brought the things over to the little table and knelt behind it as he measured the tea into the pot. I was sure that kneeling was the proper etiquette, but I sat tailor fashion. It didn't matter how innocent the context was. I never wanted to kneel again.
Do you still serve your master, D?
He asked, pouring the water into the teapot. Unfortunately.
You are unsatisfied.
I wasn't for a long time, or at least I told myself I wasn't. But then I defied him, and he showed me who he really is. Maul gave a rueful chuckle as he poured the tea into the cups and handed me one. It didn't seem like he had steeped it nearly long enough, and the color was pale, but it smelled heavenly.
I always knew who Sidious was. My father was believing I was different, that I wasn't just another tool to be used and discarded.
He sipped his tea.
Will your master discard you when you are no longer useful to him?
I stared into the teacup for a long time. A year ago, I would have said no. If Aslan did discard me, it would only be in the sense of releasing me from his service and letting me return to my family. After Thanos, though, he hadn't been quite as careless with me as I had originally feared, but he had proven that my well-being was not as much of a priority to him as I had hoped. And as far as that idea of him releasing me went, for the first time, I let myself think it. Aslan will never let me go. I shivered and took a sip of the tea. Maul was right. It was exquisite, with a light floral flavor that was far more delicate than the blend I used at home. I let out a little hum of pleasure before finally speaking. I don't know. You aren't the first person to suggest that he might, but I also have little choice at this point.
It sounds like you do know now. And you have more choice than you think.
I shrugged. My family's under his protection. Given your line of work, you can probably guess what that entails. He essentially has them hostage to my good behavior. Until I'm able to keep them safe, he has me on his leash. Maul stared off into space for a moment.
Sidious killed my family, my mother, and my brother, because they helped me.
The teacup was warm in my hands, but I felt myself going cold. His mother and his brother. The symmetry was too hideous to contemplate. I took a gulp to warm myself. It scalded my tongue, and I barely tasted it. I'm so sorry, I heard myself say, my voice sounding mechanical to my own ears.
Yes, he took everything from me. And someday, I'll have my revenge. Someday, he'll be the one begging for mercy. Every torment he visited on me is more flame in the crucible of my hatred. And that hatred gives me strength. Everything he did to me made me stronger. Perhaps that's what drew me to you. What I sense in you. I sense anger and pain and hatred. I sense power. Through that power, your chains will be broken. Your family will be safe when he is afraid of you.
I don't know when I had started leaning forward, my lips parted with undisguised hunger. At that last sentence, though, I came back to myself, shaking my head with a scoff. I don't think he's afraid of anything. The kind of power he has, I'm never going to be able to touch it. He's had centuries to learn and to plan and to build his kingdom and to increase his mastery of magic, and I can't come close to that. Truth be told, looking at what it's made of him, I don't know if I want to.
Do you know what the greatest lie my master told me was? That I needed him. He needed me. They need us, or they wouldn't bind us to their will. If your master was as you said, he wouldn't need you. He does.
Seductive words. And yet, supposing you're right, that hardly helps me right now. I'm far away from him being afraid of me.
How disappointing,
He said, and he looked as though he meant it. As though I had somehow failed him by not being delusional. I bristled. Why? Because I'm not going to kill myself by throwing myself at one of the most powerful men in the world right now, as I am, and demanding his surrender?
Because you don't believe you ever could.
I rocked back as if slapped. Maul watched me.
The others you were with, do they know what you are? I only caught a glimpse of them, but they don't seem a trustworthy bunch.
A change of subject, to be sure, but a welcome one. That's an understatement. I've been trying to hide it, though, and I've made sure that for the moment I'm indispensable.
Then you have a choice to make.
What are you talking about? Maul gestured at the tarpaulin with one hand as though he were beckoning someone inside. There was a yelp of surprise, and the tarpaulin parted as a figure was pulled through it as though by an invisible rope. It was a tabaxi, her fur soaked with rain, and she was hovering a foot above the ground and clawing at her throat as though she were choking. I knew her. She was part of Afra's crew. Glost, that was it. Glost Umbra. I hadn't liked her. Sly and sarcastic, but not in a way conducive to friendly banter.
She's been listening for most of our conversation, so she knows exactly what you are.
He reached onto one of the shelves and handed me a dagger.
A moment ago, she was trying to decide whether to tell the rest of the crew to overpower you or to save the entire bounty for herself. The only way you're leaving the Imperium is to kill her.
I gaped. You can't be serious. I'm not going to murder someone in cold blood based on nothing but your assurances of what she's thinking.
All right. Tell me you trust her to keep your secret, and I'll release her.
That's... I looked at Glost, her hands still scratching desperately at her throat, then at Maul's intense stare, then at the dagger, making a frantic mental inventory of my spells. Other than battering her into unconsciousness, or, yes, killing her, I had nothing to prevent her from leaving and turning me in. I could remind her that only I could get us through the mists to our buyer, but what was to stop her from telling the rest of the crew to subdue me once the delivery was made? I hated myself for it, and I would never admit this to anyone else, but at that moment, I wished that I could do to her what had been done to me, simply plucking the memory of the last few minutes from her head. Although, come to that, judging by the memory Azalin had returned to me, I was the sort of person who wouldn't hesitate to abet genocide so long as me and mine were protected. I had agreed to spy for Thanos without a single thought for the kind of information I would give him and the way that he would use it. The only difference was in that case, I'd been able to tell myself that my own hands were clean. Nebula would have done it. Nebula would have snapped her neck before Maul had even finished speaking, and I would have made a few noises about it while secretly glowing with relief. But I just couldn't. Maul watched me, waiting. When I showed no sign of acting, he gave a cry of frustration, and lightning crackled from his hands to the helpless, hovering tabaxi. It was an eldritch blast, but the color of the lightning was not a color. Glost fell to the ground, charred and smoking and very dead. You didn't have to kill her. Even to me, my voice sounded half-hearted, almost wheedling. And yes, I was secretly glowing with relief. There had to be something else we could have done. Maul gestured again, and her body slid past the tarp and out of the cave.
If you truly wish to keep your family safe, you'll never hesitate like that again.
I stood, glaring, and extended the dagger to him. Don't you dare use them as a weapon to bludgeon me with. He didn't reach for it.
Keep it. I won't always be there to save you from yourself.
I don't need anyone to save me. I threw the dagger at him. He caught it out of the air, one corner of his mouth lifting.
What about someone to teach you?
He floated the dagger gently back to me.
Keep it. Please. It belonged to my mother, and it has power. It might serve you well. Here, take this.
He held out a stone carved with arcane sigils. I was fairly certain it was a sending stone.
I can help you understand the power you possess. You can use this to contact me whenever you're ready. Now, I believe the rain has stopped. Thank you for a very interesting afternoon.
I opened my mouth to tell him that he could keep his sending stone and his dagger and his doomed vendetta against a master who could kill him without even noticing he had done so. But then I closed it again. I can help you understand the power you possess. Not Aslan's power. Mine. I was never going to make Aslan fear me. That was lunacy. But if I was ever going to break free from him, it would have to be through my own abilities. I had let myself believe once that when I had finished surveying these domains for him, he would let me return to Salem with the magic he granted me. Now, he might still release me when he no longer had need of me, but would he really let me retain his power if I were no longer in his service? That didn't sound like Aslan. And if that horrid thought was right, he will never let me go. Or, hells, even if it wasn't, and I wanted to leave on my own terms rather than his, I couldn't expect to use his own power to escape him. I took a deep breath, taking the sending stone from his hand and the dagger from the air. When you killed Glast, that looked like wild magic. You know how to channel it? Maul smiled, eyes gleaming with triumph.
I'll brew us more tea.
I needed to get back to the Archangel before the crew gave me up for dead, so I didn't stay as long as I would have liked. Although, as I told Aslan, had I not obtained the precise tools I needed to evade that sudden mass of Imperial patrols at the border, I might have been trapped in the Outer Rim indefinitely. Maul is intense and unpredictable and doubtless extremely dangerous, but I left the cave having learned more about wielding my wild magic in less than an hour than I had over the past 2 years combined. It seems that with wild magic, my passion gives me strength. Small wonder Aslan mistrusts it. I feel somewhat guilty as I imagine you reading this, Binx. I don't think you would approve of Maul. But my wild magic, that power is there inside of me, and now it's awake, and I don't know what it is or what to do with it, and I need help. I need someone to show me my place in all this. And that place is not bowing down before Aslan's throne. You wouldn't approve, but you aren't here. And Maul is. I'm sorry, but it's true. I'm sorry. Love, D. This has been The Wonderful World of Darklords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode were obtained through museopen.org. The Requiem Aeternum and Agnus Dei from Felix Draeseka's Requiem Mass are used under a Creative Commons Attribution license. All other recordings are in the public domain. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Aslan Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at Darklord Aslan. The Wonderful World of Darklords logo was designed by Haylight Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, look for us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening.